Hello, my name is Tim B. Green and I'm the Successful Loser. Today I'm going to talk about successful meditation for the hyper mind. I got a message from a friend of mine who watched my video, 5 Foundations of Success, and she said she liked it. Thank you, Shauna. But she gave me some really valuable feedback, and that was she said that she's not a good meditator. Now, Gary Vee has said the same thing, though he gave it one attempt on what appears to have been a live podcast or TV show. Not exactly conducive of a place to try to actually meditate. It's very similar to walking. We're all terrible walkers when we're 1 or 2 years old. Unlike adults, kids just try and try again until they succeed. If they didn't, our whole society would be based on crawling. So think about that. So adults' approach to skill is more kind of lazy and negative, I guess, expecting more and putting in less effort. But how somebody with a hyper mind, a mind that doesn't shut off, can learn to meditate. Principles that are verified that I read called the breakout principle, and what he described in there. A few times in my life, I recognized this on my own previous to reading the book. 2 or 3 years ago, I was skating late at night with my land skates. They're like rollerblades, but with bigger air-filled wheels. And I had ski poles. So I'm skiing along, and the rhythm, driving with the poles, and the skating motion, which of course is sort of like this. Between these two motions, they're both very rhythmic. So you do pole, skate, skate, pole, skate, skate. It was late at night. It was completely quiet. It was around 3 a.m. Zen and meditative, the repetitive motion mixed with the quiet of the environment. I was actually listening to psytrance, which is my favorite thing to listen to when I exercise. So this unique combination of things led to sort of a meditative state. Now, many years later, when I read the breakout principle, I found he talked about the same thing. There are many people the world over who have found simple repetitive activity. One of his examples is about a famous football player who likes to do needlepoint to relax. It's repetitive, it doesn't take a lot of mental resources, and it tends to put him into sort of a meditative and relaxed state. This state seems to be, in my experience, I can't remember from the book, but in my own experience, a far superior state for using meditation to come up with solutions or to perpetuate creativity, to encourage creativity in some way, because you're not focusing on only your breath. Really, all you're doing is you're focusing on your activity because it takes some attention, and really nothing else. Everything else pretty much takes care of itself. In recent times, in the last year or so, what I do is I go down to my local river, relatively close to my apartment here in Amagasaki City, Japan. What it does is it's a repetitive motion. In fact, all you're basically doing is this motion and sometimes this motion. This rotates the kite, so it spins the kite, and this turns the kite, turning right from my side, turning left. So it's like steering a bicycle in a way, except you're doing it constantly in a figure-8 motion as you fly the kite through the sky. It's a repetitive motion, which takes skill and concentration to learn, but once it's learned, like riding a bike or walking or knitting or needlepoint, the amount of effort it takes mentally to do it is actually very low, but it does take attention. So these are the components you really need to produce a meditative state. If you have any activity like that, what you can do is you can use the activity itself as your mantra, which is just usually a repeated word that helps you concentrate while you're meditating, or a repeated syllable or sound, bringing your attention back to your activity. So while you're doing it, pretty much by definition, you have to have a certain minimal amount of attention on it, or you just stop doing it. It's a really great place to just let your mind wander. And that's exactly what you want to do. You're not trying to concentrate on anything except the activity. But since that takes so little of your mental resources, I think that's why it's a really good place to come up with solutions. And I personally have experienced this repeatedly. For the hyperactive mind, Shauna, for you, take something you like to do, perhaps since you love horseback riding, or if you like biking or even walking. Doing that and really concentrating on your walking could be used to facilitate a form of effective meditation. Now, if you don't want to do that, or if that's not really what you're looking for, it's better for me, honestly, right now, with my lower skill, since I'm out of practice, I get more meditative activity out of my kite zen, as I like to call it, simply by flying my kite in figure eights, than I do out of my regular meditation. So my regular meditation, as I discussed in the 5 Foundations video, was about laying down and meditating immediately upon waking with your eyes closed. That's fine as long as you're fully rested. If not, you're likely just to fall back asleep. Anytime you're a little bit sleepy, if you try to lay down and meditate, most people without practice will fall asleep. So in that case, it's better to sit in a comfortable position and do your meditation. Now, the specifics of meditation are really simple. You breathe in deeply and for as long as you can, and then you breathe out slowly and for as long as you can. Simple as that. So like this. I don't know whether you'll hear this. I'm going to exaggerate the intensity of the breath just to illustrate it. Okay, so here it is here. Okay, so that's a quick illustration of 2 breath cycles. Now, as you're meditating, as your body, your nervous system sort of relaxes, the duration of the inhalation and the duration of the exhalation will be longer and longer. So you're trying to take the slowest, longest, gentlest breath in and the slowest, longest, gentlest breath out. Okay, so to meditate effectively, really all you have to do is use your breath as a mantra. You don't need a mantra in addition, simply using the breath itself as the mantra. So that's just breathing in and breathing out. While you're doing that, you're just simply paying full attention to the breath. Easier said than done though, right? That's where the hyper mind comes in. So inevitably, especially without regular practice, what you find is your mind is going to wander. And even with regular practice, your mind is going to wander. The way to deal with this for the hyper mind, instead of the traditional way, which is bring your attention back to your breath. So you recognize you're having a thought, you recognize you're not concentrating on your breathing, you bring your attention back to your breath. I'm going to flip that on its head because I found this is what's working for me really well lately. And that is to use my breathing to interrupt my thoughts. So when I catch myself thinking about something, worrying about the day, thinking about what I'm going to do after I meditate, how this is a waste of time because I'm thinking and not meditating and it's not working, common for hyper meditators. Instead of worrying about that, I use my breath to shut up my thinking, because normally your thoughts will interrupt your breathing. From the hyper mind point of view, it's sort of more aggressive. So I literally, as I just did there, use my breathing to shut up my internal dialogue, my internal video. So that's about it. Just use your breathing to interrupt your thoughts, which have interrupted your attention to your breathing. Or shut your thoughts up to get back to paying attention to breathing while you're meditating. Now, the key really comes down to this: having an effective way to bring your attention back to your breathing. Traditional would be to simply bring your attention back. When I had a thought, I would just imagine it as a bubble, and then it was rising to the top of a deep body of water. So anything like that, you could imagine it as smoke or as clouds or as balloons floating away. That works once you're proficient. I found for my level right now that that's not working so well. Using my breath to interrupt my thoughts to be far more effective. So Shauna, try that. And everybody else, if you're in the same category as us, And the other one is to use the active meditation, knitting, walking, skating, flying a quad-line kite. If your thoughts, which normally you're just going to let wander, but if you seem to be concentrating too much on one thing, too much conscious thought rather than relaxed thought, let's call it that, letting your mind just wander, you could do the same thing. Use the activity you're doing to interrupt your overly concentrated thoughts. In the case of that sort of breakout type of meditation, it's not about really concentrating on your breathing. It's about concentrating on your activity and letting your thoughts go where they may. But if they got locked on something, then you could use your activity again as a mantra. And that happens quite naturally. Okay, that's it for today. My name is Tim B. Green, and I'm the Successful Loser. Bye for now.